Social studies is more than just the six strands that we really talked about in this class. It's about how those six strands um, connect with us as a person and how and our role in what we do in our community, our country, and the world is. When I think about past experiences with social studies, I think about learning a list of dates, facts, people, events, and maybe a little bit about the world. But I don't really remember what those were. I think now what I've learned is that social studies is all around us and that, we really do need it in order to be a good citizen, um, in order to know what our role is in this world. We have to know the world, and that is what social studies is. It's teaching us how to be a part of this world and how the past and the present connect together to really just make us a part of this world. And I think I've learned a lot about how involved technology is in our world today. How that's something that wasn't as involved in the past. It was involved, but not as involved. And just how that's shaped how social studies is taught and learned. And that's the new stuff that I've learned about social studies. When I think about my knowledge of the TEKS, I instantly go to the different strands. You have geography, history, government, economics, citizenship, culture, and technology and science applications. I don't instantly first think about the TEKS themselves. And throughout this class, I've really started to think about what it means to teach those TEKS. And it's important when you look at the TEKS from kindergarten through sixth grade, they all align. And you can take a TEK kindergarten history and look at that and go through each grade, first, second, third, all the way through sixth, and you will see how they each build upon that. And I really hadn't thought about how they built upon it. And so when you are teaching those TEKs, you want to make sure no matter what grade you're teaching that you are teaching the TEK for that grade, because the next year they're going to build upon that. And if they don't have that foundation, if they have not learned that TEK, then they're already at a disadvantage, and they may not be able to make that connection and build upon. They can't build upon something they don't know. So it's really important that you focus on the TEK for that grade, what you're teaching, because they all align, and it's important to keep that in mind, the alignment of all the TEKs. Learning theory is pretty much how our students learn. So if obviously we want to teach them in the constructivism approach, we want them to be able to build upon what they learn. We want them to develop their own connections with learning. We want them to construct their own knowledge, and the only way we can do that is by giving them opportunities to ask questions, to be actively participants in discussions, activities, to do more hands-on experiences so that they can make these little personal connections to learning and construct their own knowledge. When they do that, they are more likely to remember what they're learning, and therefore, as they go through the grade levels, they can build upon their knowledge. I know a lot more now about critical digital literacy than I did at the beginning. I had, an understanding of what it was, but I really hadn't thought about what it meant to use in a classroom. And because I had to use it in the classroom for this class, I really understood how important it is to know these tools, your technology tools, and how when you know how to use these tools, it just broadens everything that you can do and everything that you can learn. And I think that was one of the really big eye-openers of this class, was just learning how important it is to have critical digital literacy. Being schooled to me now means pretty much just sitting in a classroom and having someone tell you everything that you're supposed to know. Versus being educated is being able to have someone guide you, and you being able to connect all these different pieces of information and to construct your own knowledge. And I think that's what being educated is not being told specifically, hey, here's a list of things you need to know, memorize it, go home, and then come back and take a test. Educated is having hands-on experiences so that I remember this. I make these personal connections and I remember it in the future. And that's what I want my students to experience, is to have these personal connections so that they can be educated and not just me tell them and then be schooled. For this class, I was definitely educated. I was not given all the information that just go home, hey, read this and come back. A lot of the assignments were hands-on things that I had to participate in, whether it was through discussion, through the Google Documents, through Pinterest, or going out, a scavenger sighting. They were all different things for me to construct my own knowledge on what social studies is and how to teach it. It was not easy. It was a little bit difficult. Part of it was I am so used to being schooled that it's hard to figure out how to construct your knowledge, how to be educated. And I think that took a little bit of getting used to. But by the end of this course, I think I did a much better job of just allowing myself to be educated versus being schooled. One of the biggest things I learned in this class was just how different my education growing up in the school system was compared to what is happening now. I really do feel like I was more schooled through my elementary years, and now I can see my children in the school system, and they're being educated. They're having all these different learning experiences that makes learning fun and meaningful to them. And I kind of feel cheated sometimes from that, but I am using what I know now and the experiences that I had growing up to make sure that I don't want to be that teacher that schools students. I want to educate my students. I want them to make their connections. And going through this course and seeing all of that, it's really put that on my heart, and not just something that we're told to learn here. It's something that I'm really going to be dedicated towards doing. My expectations for this class was kind of more on what we would need to know in order to teach students social studies. And boy, did it blow my mind, because it wasn't just a list of historical dates and facts and all of these things that I remember having to learn in elementary school. It was how to use technology, how to use hands-on activities to teach students about social studies. And I really hadn't gotten to that place in my mind where I guess I understood the difference between schooled and educated. And so this class, the expectations, I expected to be schooled, and I did not expect to be educated. So as far as what I learned, and did it meet my expectations, I mean, it exceeded it, because I had no clue. And I think you as a professor really helped me to see how constructing knowledge is difficult when you've been schooled, but how important it is for a student to be in charge of their own education and to take ownership. And I really appreciate being able to have a teacher who educates me and doesn't school me.